Hi, this is Jocelyn Houle from BetterTech. Welcome, Andrei Rebrov. We're really excited to have you here and talk a little bit about your role at Scentbird. Maybe you can start by giving us a little bit of background on what you're doing today and how you got there.
Of course, and thank you for having me here today. So, as you said, I am CTO and co-founder at Scentbird, but the way how I got there is kind of interesting because I am originally from Russia. I'm graduated from the aerospace university, and people usually ask, "What, like, how come the aerospace engineer Asper he now sells perfume and wine?" And it was all about my passion around engineering and how to build great things, how to build useful things. And I went through a couple of big enterprise companies. This is where I realized that I want to work for a startup in a fast-moving environment. When you make decision, you own the consequences, but you move fast, you make something valuable and something that people really want. And then by accident, it was a touring accident, I got to the hackathon back in Moscow. And as I found out 2 months later, one of the co-organizers was my future co-founder, Sergey, who was looking for a technical co-founder because at the time, he and Maria, our CEO, did a test and they found out that people want to buy perfume online, but they need two things to make it happen from technical perspective. First, the algorithm, the recommendation algorithm, and second, a technical co-founder who can build this and who can build the team that will build the website and everything around it. So 10, almost 11 years later, here I am. And since then, a lot of things changed, but the original idea since exists, it is how to make it less riskier and much more interesting to buy perfume online.
Amazing. So I think I have this right? Are you like a rocket scientist who became an entrepreneur?
More or less, yes.
Nice. And they say it's not rocket science. You're like, yes, it definitely could be. So this is very interesting to me that people want to buy online, but they needed to kind of get unblocked with the technical tools. When you think about strategically, I'm sure there's a ton of operational stuff that just has to get done, but strategically, what are the pillars of important technical support for this type of effort that you think about? You mentioned personalization as one. Like,
Mhm.
what are the other big tectonic plates that we need to think about?
Sure. So since we are talking about e-commerce or subscriptions are very close to each other, another part will be payments because you have to make sure that you have your payment stack working properly, you bill people correctly. If they want a refund, the refund works smoothly. You can deal with chargebacks, you can deal with fraud. So the whole payment thing is super important. The second part that also comes from the customer need is around order transparency. People want to know what's going on with the order. I think we live in the world when like Amazon changed our expectation around fulfillment, around shipment. So we want to know exactly what's going with the order. Is it in the warehouse? Is it moving somewhere? Is it out for delivery? So supporting that is obviously the big part of our service. And as you said, the personalization is quite important. And personalization by itself is quite a big word. It's a big buzzword in the commerce industry, not just right now, but past 3, 5 years maybe already. And it goes the long way. It starts with the meeting your customer where they exist and up to perfume recommendations, easy way to find things online, good working search, nice working emails, things like that.
So yeah, everything you've described is required, but incredibly complicated very quickly, right? I think probably a lot of payments work you could collaborate with other services, right? A lot of good work has gone into that. Would you say that it's really around fulfillment and customer preferences and personalization, where your specialty, where technology is giving you the most lift?
I would say the most lift comes from the operations because when we started, we used to work with 3PL, third-party logistics providers, who did shipment fulfillment for us. But at some point, when we had around 120, 150,000 subscribers, we had to take over this part of the business as well and do it ourselves because quick enough, it became very complicated because the way our subscription works is it's not the same box for everyone. You can, and that's the whole promise. You can customize. You can pick what you get next month, and we give you a variety of 700 different perfumes. You can have multiple products in your box, and you can add different add-on products on top of that. So from operation perspective, soon enough it become quite madness, because people expectation, even for subscription, when people give companies a little bit more slack in terms of how fast the order should arrive to them, unless it's some kind of perishable goods, people still have high expectation in terms of how fast they want to see the order. And we wanted to shorten the cycle between the charge and the shipment hitting our customer doors. So, and on top of that, we only can ship ground, because perfume is a flammable liquid. You technically, you can ship it by air, but it is very expensive. We don't want to make our subscription too expensive for our end users. So decided to affect what we could, how fast we can ship orders in the warehouse. So even right now, not even right now, but I would say every day our ops team comes up with new idea, and obviously we have to support it from the infrastructure, from the system perspective. So now our ops team can ship almost 120,000 orders in under 4 days. And this is pretty impressive, but I would say technology takes a big part in this.
But we should, for the audience, just explain what Scentbird exactly
Mm-hmm.
does and what it does for what consumers in particular are interested in when they subscribe.
Of course. So Scentbird is a subscription for perfumes and colognes. And the way how it works is pretty simple. So usually when we buy perfume, we think of big department store where we go, we pick pretty large perfume bottle, 50, 100, 150 milliliters, but we never use it in full. But as human, we love to try new things. So what might happen, and that's actually what we observed, a lot of people might have 5, 6, 7 perfume bottles on their shelves, half full, and people want to try more, but it's really hard to justify another purchase when you already spend, I don't know, 5, 6, 700 dollars on all these bottles. It depends on your taste and choice. So once we understood the problem, we come up with a solution of perfume repackaging. So what we sell is 8 milliliters of perfumes of your choice that you pick upfront. So it works like like old Netflix, when you have a queue, you select perfumes for the next 12 months. And that's pretty much it, unless you find something interesting in the new launches that we have on the website every month. You can just leave it as is, and every month we will charge you and we'll ship a product right to your door.
Amazing. So it's kind of like a fragmented ownership of a.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, that's great. That's right. It is more fun to shop for a new scent because you're trying a bunch of different things than it
Correct.
is sometimes once you own it. That's right. So when you're thinking about this kind of model, there's a lot of subscription models out there. You guys are experts now. If I was just starting off, what advice would you give me of like what's the most important thing and what's changing the most in your business right now?
That's a good question, because when we started, subscriptions were on the rise, and it was, I wouldn't say easy to impress a customer, but it was easy to stand out. Now, these days, you have 10 subscriptions for your vitamins, 15 subscriptions for clothes, and so on and so forth. So I would say if you decide to launch a subscription, make sure that you launch something that people really need and something that is truly unique. So, for example, myself, I'm a big fan of various subscriptions. Aside of various streaming services, I do buy a lot of from D2C brands that I like because of what they do and how they do it. Because one examples could be creatine. Like, I exercise a lot, I understand that creatine is important. So on one hand, I can go and buy them in my local pharmacy, but on the other hand, I found this product and they create amazing creatine gummies. Tastes great. It's fun to consume them. So I subscribe because I want to support the business that I like. So I would say, number one thing, make sure that you make something that people will enjoy. And second, don't disappoint your customers from operation perspective, because what people don't like is lack of transparency. So if something goes wrong, just tell your consumers, they will understand it. We had plenty of examples in our past when, for example, the warehouse that we used at the time was located in Georgia, and Georgia was hit by a snowstorm pretty hard. So we said, hey, unfortunately, this month, all the shipments will be delayed because of the snowstorm. We had to close our warehouse because we can't take care of our people. And actually, we got a lot of very warm emails from our customers who said, hey, we appreciate what you do for your employees. So let's say great product, transparency in terms of what you do, and never get satisfied with what you do. Like always try to improve what you do. And like when you do this, you understand what you need from the technology, and technology will come.
That's great. In terms of offering that transparency, I've heard this theme a couple of times of really understanding that shipping and operations through line and being transparent and communicative. How do you know how people are feeling about it? What are your tools when you think of, people will tell you certainly, but there must be other ways.
Yes, the most obvious way is to ask people. So we have a lot of ways to collect the feedback from the customers, but we also do a lot of analytics around what's going on. So for example, since we track every shipment, we know what should be the average delivery time from our warehouse to certain area, let's say to Washington, D.C. So if, let's say, we will see there is a delay, then we can connect it to people who might unsubscribe because of that. Because so that's another thing that unfortunately not that many companies are doing. They don't dig deeper in the data they have. And having data these days is not hard. What's hard is actually to dig deeper, go beyond the obvious level of, I know, NPS scores and things like that. Because as soon as you start asking questions, why, you'll find some interesting things. So like you can connect the delivery speed to retention. And this is actually something that, like, all these numbers, they'll give you a question, is it worth it? So for example, if you connect delivery speed, let's say you decide to try a new carrier and you cut delivery day by 1 day, then you connect it to the customer retention, and then you will actually see that if you spend extra dollar per delivery speed, then you actually get much more dollars in return because people stay longer with you. So all of this is inside. So data is very important part of our business.
Interesting. And so that data gives you some context, right, on where to invest, and you get a
Yes.
chance to see. I always think this is interesting, see what people really do versus what they say they're
Yeah.
going to do, because they're both valid, but sometimes they don't match up.
Yes, and sometimes we see it in from our customers, because sometimes people say, "Hey, something just happened on the website. I didn't do this," and data tells you, "No, it actually happened." And sometimes it's just a funny anecdote. Sometimes it's actually a way to find out about fraud or someone using some I think one of the situation was when lady contacted us and said, "Hey, I see charges on my card," and we figured out that her ex-boyfriend actually remembered her credit card details, and now he's using this everywhere on the internet. So
Yeah,
on
I was
one,
going to ask
yes,
you about that. It's like basic data protections that we all, any payer, anybody who's processing payments has certain requirements. A lot of that's been kind of strong armed over time. But now with so much data coming in, like it's okay if you don't want to talk about it because it may be proprietary, but like what are your thoughts around protecting people's privacy and their preferences? How have you evolved your thinking there?
that's one thing that keeps me up at night, if you ask me, because unfortunately, we live in the times when you cannot just install some software and assume that now you're fully safe. No, it's the constant arm race, and you have to keep up with all the hackers. So we do a lot of things on the front. We work with platform like HackerOne that allows us to involve white hat hackers who are trying to penetrate our platform, so we can find bugs this way. We constantly update our infrastructure and all the system to ensure that we have all the security patches. We educate our employees around security. Don't click on links. Like, don't assume that people who pretend to be our CEO is actually our CEO. Things like that. But another level of this is to understand modern standards about the data and actually know where your data is, because it is very easy to connect to a new email service provider or a new analytical platform. But in many cases, companies don't realize what kind of data they have and where it actually is being stored. So I would say, yes, on one hand, it is very painful to be compliant with all the regulations, especially when every state has their own regulation. But on the other hand, it forces people to spend money on protection, on proper security measures, security protocols, proper architecture even.
Hmm.
And what it comes down to is having the right tool that tells you, hey, like this is the catalog of services that you use. This is like each service has stores each this type of data. They have their service located in this region, and that's what companies should know about the data. So because that will allow them to be again transparent in front of their customers when customers request, hey, like what kind of data do you have about me? Can I see this data? Can you delete this data about me? And this becomes a common request, and companies have to be compliant with it.
Right. That's interesting. I think that's interesting. There's a lot of silos and pockets of data to keep track of, right? As well as a lot of different pockets of regulation. I
Oh
forgot
yeah.
that. Yeah, because you're international as well, right? So
We are going international, so but
okay.
even if you just stay in United States, we have California with CRPA, we have New York, we have Chicago, like in
Oh
every
yeah, yeah.
state now, like either already have certain regulation about it or is working on it. So
Because
it is a
that's the
question
consumers
of,
are located there. That's
yeah.
right. That's right. Interesting. Well,
I,
I want to ask you more about Scentbird and how it's going, but I feel like I don't know if you know, there's a new rule been passed that you can't have any technology discussions without talking about generative AI. Uh,
oh wow.
every interview has to include at least one question. And since we're talking a little bit about data is such a big
Hmm.
part of Gen AI. Have you thought a little bit about, is that going to affect the subscription e-commerce world anytime soon for you, or what are your thoughts there?
It is already affecting. Right now, it affects companies like on one hand in small ways. So, for example, our engineers use Copilot that helps them to deal with simple tasks. Our marketing team sometimes use Gen AI to create some copy and see how it works. Same goes for images, same goes for video editing, things like that. Will generative AI create products for subscription? Maybe. Maybe not. We already see, I know there are some companies, for example, in pharmaceutical space that use generative AI to come up with new medicine formulas.
Mm.
I know that some designers, for example, use generative AI to create new fashion collections. So it's already there. So whether we want it or not, I would say it's already happening. Will
Certainly
we
in
see
fraud,
this?
like fraud and
Yeah,
payments and all that stuff, it's already there. That's right.
it's already there. I would say one thing that we also might not realize, but customer support in many cases when like it's getting smoother than before, like, because I bet everyone had this bad experience with robo voice answering your questions, and you are constantly demanding talking to a human representative. But it's getting better, it's getting smoother, and sometimes we cannot realize that actually some kind of bot answered our questions and made us satisfied. So it is there.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, let's swing back to, you're one of the founders, right, of
Hmm.
Scentbird. And so tell me, like, how's it going? How big are you guys today?
Hmm.
What's new and exciting? And what are you thinking about is on your roadmap?
Oh, so in terms of how big, we passed 600,000 subscribers earlier this year, so it's a pretty big mark for us. We know that it's not the end, it's just some step in our journey. The fragrance market in the United States is much larger. I think we are about, I know, less than percent, I believe. But one of our next big plan is to go international, truly international, and we look into European markets because obviously there is a lot of demand for good fragrance. Like they produce a lot of great fragrances, but as we see, we have certain copycats in that market, and we think that if we come there and do it the right way, able to find our own niche there. Another idea that we have is to expand our offering because last year we acquired another subscription business called Drift.co.
Mm.
They produce these amazing car fresheners, so not your average pine trees that a lot of people are annoyed of. They have this nice either wooden or stone pieces soaked in oil, and that smells really great. Like just this morning, I changed it to coffee, my favorite aroma, and like people compliment my car.
I
Um,
I need that right now, and I want you to do like a massive corporate deal with Uber because that is my big complaint about Uber. I'm very, it really affects me. I don't know why. My kids would laugh if they heard this right now because there was like,
No,
"You're
I get it.
complaining."
I get it. Yes. So like drift and like I live in New York area. Every time I get in the yellow cab, I think
I
we need
wish
to
it was
make a
my
deal with
thing.
this. Yes, exactly. So we might do something about it.
Sorry, I
Like
got distracted there. Sorry, that's an
that's fine. That's
interesting new
fine.
product line.
So like and there are a lot of other verticals related to fragrances. So we do some research in this area and see maybe we should go there. So something might happen in that area next year as well. But on top of that, it's the constant improvement of the website. One big opportunity and one big area is personalization, because as I said, personalization is a big umbrella for a lot of nice and small things sometimes. So better
Can we talk
search,
about
but
that for a second? I just feel
of
like
course.
everyone talks about personalization, right? But it seems like it's getting harder and harder to do. Is that right? I mean, we have so much more data, and yet, I don't know, people want more personalization than they're getting somehow. What do you think's going on there?
I would say part of this conundrum is that since it became a buzzword, a lot of vendors out there just put a personalization service on their homepage. And when you talk to them, they actually do very different things. And that was my big headache earlier this year when when I decided, hey, it's time for Scentbird to go this route. And I started to talk company. And for a very long period of time, I couldn't understand what's going on, because I talk to a new company, they do one thing. I talk to another one, they talk about different stuff. So, and then I decided to approach it differently and say, hey, what does personalization mean for Scentbird and Scentbird customers? Because we all do the we do this to make a better experience for end users. So we said, hey, let's reverse this communication and start like what our customers would love to see us do better. And it comes down to communication. So we thought, okay, how we can make our communication better so it resonates with people, starting from better copy and up to getting less emails, but emails that are more relevant to you. The website. So one of the biggest problems that we have so many offerings, and sometimes we might annoy our customers with all these pop-ups. So why are we showing all these pop-ups? Maybe we need to show just one or two that will be, again, relevant to people. Quizzes, because people want to have a great discovery process. They are ready to share the data with you, but they want to use this data. They want to know this data is being used properly and the data is being used to give them better recommendation. They want explanation why certain perfume was recommended to them. So this is where
Hmm.
our personalization efforts are going in right now.
It's
So a
interesting.
lot of
Like
things
you're
like
saying
that.
you're editing, you're almost taking some things away, building that trust so that the personalization you do will land and doesn't seem,
Yes.
transactional.
Because I'll give you an example. On our website, we have a lot of niche perfumes, and sometimes people might ask, like, like, I read all these notes, but separately they make sense to me. I understand orange, I understand patchouli, I understand lilac separately. But then when they are combined, I have no idea how they will smell. So knowing myself, I gave information about what perfumes do I like right now. I gave the reason why I need new perfume. I want a new perfume that I will wear to my day job. So please explain me, why do you recommend me this? And this is where personalization can truly shine and give you a lot of benefit.
Interesting. I like that. So going forward, well, actually, what I was going to ask you a little bit about is it seems like some interesting themes have arrived here. If you were investing, like a new investor came in and was looking at, there's so many subscription services out there, right? And if you're not
Yep.
familiar with it, I'm hearing some basic themes. So like, what should an investor look for? I know you said one thing is like there's a real need there. I'm hearing like you have a domain expertise in fragrance. Like what are those key components that an investor, as they're evaluating multiple subscriptions models or subscription type companies, what should they think about?
That's a very good question. Because like when people look at the company from the surface, it sometimes could be one story, but when they look inside, it's a completely different story. An investor actually has an opportunity to look on both sides. And I would say great subscription businesses are sticky in a good way, meaning that people have a seamless experience using this. One of the great examples that I have is Dollar Shave Club. That's one. Another one, BarkBox. BarkBox is one of my favorite subscription. Even if I don't have a dog, I really love what these guys are doing because they have very great way to talk to people. They have great product. They have fun Instagram. So it's just a great business by itself because they have great product and people love it. And I would say when people love your product, they will stay with you, even in the hard times.
Mm-hmm.
But from the other side, what investor should look at are company financials. And I've been telling this everyone. I've been extremely lucky in that I was working very close with our finance team because in many cases, some founders might say, "Hey, I will hire a finance team and I will let them do the thing because accounting is boring or it's too complicated." But accounting actually gives you a full understanding of what's going on. And like when you see discrepancies in charges and revenue, things like that, you might understand that something is wrong with your business. And I would say, obviously, all investors are doing financial analysis, and that's a proper thing. But look for the two teams, how company handles their finance. First, the company should be lean. And I would say being lean helped us to go through the COVID, to go through the last year when when economy was so. And the second thing is how accurate the company is around the financial. How often do they pursue accuracy in all the numbers? How often do they check all the discrepancies in terms of charges and shipments, things like that? Because
It
that will
feels
tell
like you
this.
shouldn't have to talk about that, but that's true. It feels like you shouldn't have to say make sure that it's accurate and timely, but these things get out of whack.
Yes, like, and we see it in some bad ways. I just recently finished the book by Michael Lewis, Going Infinite, about FTX,
Oh,
and
I
that
read that.
complete. Yes, I love Michael Lewis because he always gives a lot of insights about in certain areas, but when you read about this company, it just fascinates how fast all like the million and billion stop making sense for you and for people with just some kind of monopoly money, without real value. And like when people ask, hey, like we can find millions of dollars, you can just understand how it happened.
Hmm.
And yes, in startups, it happens. Obviously, it happens on a different scales, but when founders can understand what's going on with the financial, with money going in and going out, that's usually a bad sign.
It's interesting. I think just correlating back to what you were saying too, it seems like it's particularly important in a subscription business where the information's flying in very, very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not quarterly. It's literally every 2 weeks the picture changes,
Picture
probably.
changes really fast, and subscription requires even more accuracy and discipline than e-commerce because you know that you have a very limited period of time between like one wave of orders and another wave of orders, and you need to find a way how to improve what you do, test it on a small scale, and then when the moment comes, make sure that everything works properly. So it's not like with e-commerce, you have these big days of like Black Fridays
You have a
when,
spike of some kind for like
yes,
shopping days. Yeah, now I feel like I want to work for a subscription company. That sounds pretty like terrifying and exciting.
it is exciting, yes. Sometimes it could be terrifying when something goes wrong, but this is life.
Well, listen, it's really, really great to get a chance to pull up with you, Andre, and understand a little bit more about Scentbird. And it's doing great. And congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
also helping our listeners understand a little bit more about the business model and the play of data and technology. My last question for you is what kind of scent do you wear? Like, do you wear scent? And if so, is it orange or patchouli? What?
So I like over the years I picked a lot of fragrances that I really like. In like recently my big go-to is how it's called? Dirty Hinoki. It's a great brand. They have a lot of interesting offerings. So
Hey.
this is my
I should have
perfume of the
started here. I
choices.
should have started here. Like, what's cool? What's cool in the niche fragrance space? But now we know we have at least one to look for, and we'll go to the website and look for the rest of them. Thank you, Andre. Thanks so much for coming on Better Tech. It was great to
Thank
chat.
you.